Good evening all. On behalf of HDFC Securities, I welcome everyone to this Alkyl Amine conference call to discuss the results for the quarter and full year ended March 2021. It is a pleasure of having us top management team from Alkyl Amines represented by Mr. Yogesh Kothari, Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Kirat Patel, Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer, Mr. K.P. Rajgopalan, Corporate Advisor, Ms. Kanchan Shinde, Senior Manager, Finance and Accounts, and Mr. Chintamani Thatte, General Manager, Legal and Company Secretary. Without further ado, I will now hand over the floor to the management for making the opening comments. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nilesh. It's my pleasure to welcome you for today's investor conference facilitated by HDFC Securities team. My name is Yogesh Kothari and I'm the CMD of Alkyl Amines. My happiness for our successful year 2021 is somewhat diluted by the COVID situation in India and all around the world. I'm hoping that this evil virus will be out of our lives at the earliest, and we all live in an atmosphere of happiness. Some of the Alkyl Amines employees have also had a bad experience with COVID, and we had a few casualties. Our company is doing its best to reduce the burden of our employees and their families by changing our employment policies. As most of you must be aware, Alkyl Amines has 3 different locations of manufacturing plants: Patalganga in Maharashtra, Kurkum in Maharashtra, and Dahej in Gujarat. We are producers of ethylamines, methylamines, ethyl-hexylamines, isopropylamines, acetonitrile, diethyl-isoxylamine, and several derivatives of ethyl and methylamines. Most of our plants have been put up by our own in-house teams of R&D, process engineering, technology team. All the basic engineering work is done by the in-house teams. We have not bought any technology after getting the original methylamine and ethylamine technologies. Our current projects going on are acetonitrile plant at Dahej and a new amines plant at Kurkum, again with in-house technologies. Current market for our products are pharma industry, agrochemical industry, rubber chemicals, water treatment, etc. Fortunately, pharma market in India are doing very well, and we are getting the advantage of it. I would now request Kirat Patel to take over and move forward.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Kirat Patel, Executive Director of Alkyl Amines, and I welcome you to this investor conference. And without further ado, I would like you to, to go into the question and answer mode of the conference. So, Nilesh, if you could activate the questioning mode.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on your touchtone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Kishan Gupta from CD Research. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. So essentially, you did some turnover of 1,250 crores this time. So how much scalable is your business from here on?
You mean what is our capacity utilization, or how much more can we do with the same assets on the ground?
Yeah, and in fact, even after capex, so what sort of growth you are expecting for the next few years in terms of your business?
We have said this earlier. We are in terms of volume, we have fairly optimistic because a large portion of our sales are to pharmaceuticals, and pharma industry is doing quite well. So over the next foreseeable future, 10 to 15% volume growth is what we expect, maybe on the higher side of 15%, with a few blips up and down, but that would be the kind of range we are looking at going forward over a longer medium-term period, meaning 3 to 5 years.
And how much?
Of course, there will be some years where we have a little burst because we commission a new plant and we bring in new capacity. Like this year, we hope to commission the acetonitrile. So the second half of this year may see a little spurt in volumes.
So most of the companies, chemical companies, have benefited, who have supplies to pharma, have benefited in the last 1 year or so. So how much do you think is this sustainable?
Well, I think it is sustainable over a longer period because Indian pharmaceutical industry is still growing, and our penetration of pharma drugs is fairly low in the country, and there's a lot of potential. Mm-hmm. So on the back of, say, pharma or agro, or for that matter, even our other end users, we are still a nation which has to grow further. And when that grows, we grow. So I don't think there is a limit to how much we can grow. Provided we get our act together, we have assets on the ground, we reinvest in capex or capacity, and we keep growing.
And is there any further scope to increase existing capacities through debottlenecking?
Yes and no. In some plants, no. There are some plants which have reached the limits, but there are other plants which we are constantly debottlenecking. But as you can see that we are putting up a new aliphatic amines plant in Kurkum because we foresee that the limits of debottlenecking may be reached fairly soon in the other 4 plants.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone who wishes to ask a question, may press star and 1 now. The next question is from the line of Amandeep Singh from Ambit Capital. Please go ahead.
That except for the COVID impact in 1Q, the growth for the amines players in India has been resilient. So in that context, can you help us with volume growth, which you would have seen in 4QFY21 and entire FY21? As you can see, our top line has grown about 25 to 26%. Most of it is a value growth, mainly because the first half, meaning the first quarter mainly, our volume growth was a little suppressed. In fact, there was a degrowth because of the April-May of last year where we had, supply chain issues when the lockdown or the first lockdown happened, and subsequently we have caught up, and approximately 1/3 of that growth which you see on the top line is volume, and about 2/3 is value. Price. Sure, sir. And what would be the trend for the fourth quarter? Any sense on that?
Yes, the fourth quarter was, as you can make out, because we had a slump in the first quarter, and yet we made up all the way up to 10% volume growth, which means the second half has been definitely stronger.
Sure, sir. And sir, just as a follow-up, yes. Sure, sir. And just as a follow-up to this, will it be possible to indicate current capacity utilization on a blended basis? We know it would differ across plants, but just on a blended basis. Bit difficult because there are different plants of different size. You'll have to take a weighted average kind of thing. But I can say we are running most plants to fairly high utilizations, and perhaps we have some headroom left, but not too much. That's why we need to put more steel into the ground, both in the key products like aliphatic amines and acetonitrile.
Sure, sir. So, secondly, coming on to your expansion plans across acetonitrile and ethylamine, also with your competitor recently adding capacity in ethylamine and also debottlenecking its acetonitrile capacity. So can you help us with your thoughts on the outlook for these products and expected impact on realization consequently as the supply increases?
Yeah. So take the acetonitrile first. As we have discussed earlier in these investor conferences, there is a large market in India. We are only servicing about 40% or so of that market, and there is 60% unserved. Yes, our domestic competitor has started servicing some part of the market, but it's still a smaller market share than ours, and largely the rest is covered by imports. So we hope to narrow the imports with our new expansion, which will probably get commissioned and be out in the market in the second half of 21-22. Of course, this is subject to the troubles we are having right now with the COVID situation, with manpower and oxygen and things like that, which all people across the board are suffering. Supply chains are having some difficulties. But assuming that these get resolved fairly quickly now, and we will be looking at commissioning acetonitrile somewhere in the second half of this year, and try and capture as much market share as possible of the domestic growth. But there is also a big export market available. So we hope to push into that market also today, which we are not able to serve fully because we have capacity constraints. As far as aliphatic amines is concerned, we have 4 plants making a range of aliphatic amines from methyl, ethyl, isopropyl, butyl, EHA. So 2 or 3 of these plants are multi-purpose. So we'll have to reshuffle these plants around, and the new plant which will come up will add about 30% capacity to our aliphatic amines portfolio. And so it will be, certainly at the beginning, there will be a little bit of extra capacity, but we have a couple of products which we do want to introduce into the market, which will get then some space in the plants to make. And hopefully all 5 plants, aliphatic amines plant, will run at a reasonably good capacity.
So, sir, that was really helpful. And sir, just lastly, with cash of rupees 1.3 billion on your books and healthy cash generation, can you give us some sense on expansion plans, acetonitrile and ethylamines, or any new products that you might be looking at? And also, when you would start scouting for new land for the next round of expansion, any sense on that?
Yeah, so we had earlier, in fact, mentioned that our acetonitrile plant is going to cost a little upwards of 150 to 160 crores, which is on track. This year, that is the year ending March 21, we have spent approximately about 140 to 150 crores in capex. The coming year, 21-22, we expect to spend approximately 200 crores, depending on how these COVID situation eases off. And going forward, the ethylamines plant, the aliphatic amines plant in Kurkum, is along with its, because almost a greenfield plant, is going to cost somewhere close to about 350 crores. So a lot of these cash will, as you said, which is cash and cash equivalent sitting on our books, will get absorbed by this capital expenditure. Plus, we are looking for new land, which hopefully we will try and acquire in the next year for further growth. We do have some headroom or elbow room available both in Kurkum and Dahej for a few smaller plants. But I think we will be using that up over the next 3 years. So we need new land, which we'll probably acquire in the next year, meaning the year 22-23. And it would be probably a large piece of land, maybe 50, 100 acres, So it would absorb a lot of cash,
Sure, sir. That was really helpful, sir. Thank you. That's all from my side, and all the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhruvam from HDFC Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. So just a few clarifications on the capacity numbers, if you do share them. The methyl capacity expansion was completed in FY21, right?
Yes.
And do you share what is the total capacity for methyl amines now for us?
We had mentioned earlier that we are going to increase from 100 to 150 tons per day. We have completed that in the middle of 2021.
Okay, 150 tons per day.
Approximately, because the mix changes, It depends on MMA, TMA, DMA, TMA. So
approximately 45,000 tons on an annual basis.
Yeah, approximately.
Got it. And the acetonitrile plant will be completed by the end of, you mentioned, end of 2Q.
We were hoping to complete it earlier by June end, but now because of the 2 COVID waves, we have had to postpone it by a quarter. So it will not commission before October, it looks like.
And that's about 15,000 tons.
That is, about 15,000, a little more than that, but about that, yes.
And so I was a bit confused on the ethyl expansion. I believe in the last call you did mention something about expansion on ethyl amines. So is that announced, and is that part of your capex guidance that you have given? And how
yes.
That?
In fact, it was announced in our board meeting of, I think, February. We put up stock exchange press note. It's about a 350 crore investment into the new aliphatic amines plant. Mainly, it's being designed for ethyl amines and its utilities around it. We are developing the whole plot around it for further end uses. So,
okay. And so the capacity would be approx?
We are not mentioning that, but generally our total capacity we have mentioned will go up by about 30% of all aliphatic amines.
Okay.
So there will have 5 plants.
Got it. And it is so fair to assume by the end of 4Q, given the strong demand that you're seeing, a large part of our existing capacities would be fairly utilized. I mean, decent utilizations would be.
Yes. I would say yes. By the middle or end of next year, it will be fairly well utilized, the aliphatic amines side.
Got it. So, the capex you mentioned for FY22 is 200 crores, and given that the ethyl is also coming up, there would be a similar capex in FY23?
Yes, I think it will be around the same, if not a little more, maybe around the same.
Got it. And the ethyl expansion will be completed in FY23. The second expansion in the
the aliphatic amines plant in Kurkum will be completed in 22-23. Say middle to third quarter of 22-20.
Okay. And so one last question is, so is it possible? So the acetonitrile is also a key growth driver for us. So is it possible to share what would be the import volumes by India, say in FY21 broad number? Some rough numbers would also.
I am not 100% sure because these numbers keep a little difficult to exactly pinpoint. But I would say that it would be about 60% or 50 to 60% of India's requirement is imported. And approximately India needs about 30 to 35,000 tons.
Okay. No, that is also helpful. Got it, sir. Thanks so much, sir. Thank you.
But it's a round number, it does go up and down month to month.
Approximate numbers. Thank you.
From the line of Partha Gupte from Kotak Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon team and congrats for a strong performance.
Thank you.
So my first question is on acetonitrile realizations. If you can just give some qualitative trends in terms of how are they holding up?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? I couldn't hear the last bit.
So I'm saying that on acetonitrile realizations, if you can give some thoughts in terms of how are the realizations trending up?
Well, the realizations over the last year have been fairly steady at whatever, the rate of 250 to 300 rupees a kg. It's been in that range for some time now, and it remains steady at that level.
Okay. Secondly, sir, we've seen 400 basis point gross margin decline on a Q-on-Q basis. As compared to the December quarter, we have seen some decline in our gross margin. So what could this be attributed to? Is it that there is some raw material inflationary trend which has come up for which we'll be sort of taking a price hike in the ensuing quarter?
There are two parts to it. Yes, you're right. The first question that yes, the raw material prices which we have been enjoying a long period of very benign raw material prices for some time has turned around in the last quarter. Mainly you notice the crude oil prices have gone up, and on the back of it petrochem prices keep going up. Some of them out of proportion, some of them as a natural corollary. And yes, all I would not say across the board, but a large number of our raw materials have seen major hikes which we have not been able to commensurately pass on to the customer. Whether in the future we'll be able to pass that on is of course a speculative question. We can't predict. We hope to, but we can't say for certain about that.
Sir, my last question is that you mentioned that bulk of the revenue growth in FY21 was realization-led, less of volume growth. So is that because of capacity constraints or is that our competitors have taken some market share?
No. It is, what has happened is that if, for example, the first quarter of last year had been a normal quarter, we would not have made that statement. Probably our volume would be even higher.
Okay.
But we struggled in the first, not just us, our competitor also struggled. Both of us, or all three of us, RCF, us, all of us had problems. In April of 20 and May of 20, all of us struggled to get our plants going.
Sure.
Fortunately, our supply chain held up and the pharma industry did manage to get the material when they needed it. So I would say we all played our roles in making the supply chain strong. So.
And this time around,
if it had not, yes, we would have probably grown even more.
And how is the situation this time around? Are our facilities operating at full capacities or because of the second wave we've had to shut down our facilities?
No, the second wave has hit us a little more severely than the first wave because it's been in the last couple of months, April, May especially. We've seen a large number of people, as our CMD mentioned, getting infected. However, because we are more ready this time, it was not a kind of a sudden lockdown like last time. We got a lot of notice, so we were able to plan, and none of the plants have been actually affected in terms of production. Yes, people have get infected. People have been, working a little overtime. Some people have substituted it for others, but people are recovering, and fortunately, almost 80-90% of the people who got infected are back on their jobs. Unfortunately, we have had some fatalities, about 3 or 4 people, and we are taking care of their families and whatever we can do best for the people they have left behind.
Okay. Great, sir. Thank you very much for your thoughts and all the very best for your future.
Thank you.
The next question is from the line of Kaushik Mohan from Go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hi, sir.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, hi, sir. Sir,
Yes, Kaushik.
can you give me some thoughts on your next 4 years planning on the company, on the top line as well as on the bottom line?
Yogesh bhai, you want to take this next 5 years view?
No, it's difficult and I don't think that's allowed.
So, sir, because I see that there is more capacity being installed in the company. So I just wanted to know what drives the capacity for the company altogether.
No, we are putting up new capacities. The acetonitrile new capacity is coming up in the end of this year. It should be there online. Then a new aliphatic amines plant is coming up in Kurkum. That should be by end of next year. In between, we had already done some debottlenecking in some of the plants. So we are quite comfortable with the capacities going there or there. So we have been able to manage in the last quarter. It's quite volatile, but we do not see that as a problem just now.
And sir, what about the net profit margins will be sustaining for the future coming? Because in this couple of years, I'm seeing very good net profit margins. Will it be consistent or it is going to be contracted or somewhere there?
Difficult to say that, but we hope that it remains in the same range.
And sir, I just wanted to know, amines is a very difficult product to be transported because it gets corrosion fire. So how the company has been equipped for this risk?
Kirat?
Yeah, okay. I think amines are not per se more difficult to hire, except there are some like isopropyl amine anhydrous or methylamines, which are gaseous. So they need to be transported under pressure vessels. But the others are liquids and they're not corrosive. They are, yes, hazardous, but not corrosive. And therefore, it's a kind of a mix. Methylamines, yes, are difficult to transport across, say, nations. But within the country, yes, in domestic transport, it's not difficult. And the others are fairly easy to transport. They are liquids at ambient temperatures.
But they all come under hazardous category. So
yeah, but they will be hazardous. You have to handle it carefully.
So can you throw some lights on like how the industry growth will be in next coming years? Is something that you have seen the demand because you are giving so much of capacity there.
No, the thing is that over a period of last 2-3 years, you've seen our requirement of our products has gone up a lot, internally as well as externally. Lots of small scale and medium scale type of companies have started using our products or they're developing products based on our products. And this is the sort of the way things are happening, Earlier, as you rightly had said that transportation and other things, the international transportation is still difficult, not that difficult, but it's available. So now, when it is available in your own country, people are more courageous in putting up things which is based on their needs. So that's why we are very confident that new plants started by new entrepreneurs will start absorbing our needs. Plus, of course, the pharma industry is expanding, and India being a large country, the requirements will always go on increasing. That's my answer to you.
Sir, and some more light on the employee, like what is the frequency of the employees coming into the organization? So is there any plan that on even these people will be coming on our days, these people? Is there any plans or something like that just to protect the employees from the COVID?
Yeah, so, we have the usual practices of sanitization, distances, social distancing, masks. We have been practicing this for the whole year. In fact, in the factories, they also do 12-hour shifts, alternate days, team A, team B. They have reduced the number of people sitting in any place. Training programs have now gone online. As far as the offices are concerned, almost 9 months of the last 15 months, they have been working from home. No more than about 25% of the office is occupied at any point in time. Same applies to the Hadapsar Technical Center, where the R&D and the technical people work. People have got used to working from home and in the office spaces. Of course, the factories cannot. So they have thinned down their requirements as much as possible, and kept their distancing. Fortunately, in our kind of industry, there is no cause for large number of people to gather. There are large plants with hardly any. For example, in Patalanga, if you go in the night shift, when both the plants are running, we have less than a dozen people in the whole site of 7 acres. The rest are all security and people like that. So actual operating staff is less than 10, 12, We don't need that many because of automated plants. So that way we are a bit fortunate that across our sites over how many, more than 100 acres in the 3 sites. No, in fact, more than 110, 120 acres. There are about 500 or 600 people any day, and that is in 3 shifts. So we don't have much crowding to that extent, but we take a lot of precautions in sanitizing, distancing, keeping people separate on the bus and things like that. But of course, when they go home and outside back again, they face the same dangers that you and I face if we step out. And in case some unfortunate and they are hospitalized, we take care of all their medical expenses. And in case of the 2 or 3 people who have unfortunately expired, we have a policy to take care of their family to the extent possible. Their children, medical, their spouses for a couple of years, whatever. We try to support them as much as possible. You can't actually replace the family member, but you can do as much as possible to help.
We will discuss the current participants. Please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions, as we have several participants waiting for their turn. Also, we will request the participants to please limit their questions to 1 per participant. The next question is from the line of Shriram Mandale from Value Economics Research. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. I just have one question. What is the margin visibility in the specialty chemical business for the next financial year, if you could explain on that?
Sorry, come again with the question.
The margin visibility in the specialty chemicals business, especially in acetonitrile product.
A difficult question to answer because, that's a speculative one based on raw materials and supply situations and things like that. But if you go by history, yes, we have been enjoying a good margin result, but it will remain in the same band, somewhere plus minus a few percentage points, but it will remain in this kind of overall.
This time the acetic acid price has gone up a lot, because
yeah.
So that may affect a little bit in the margins.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nirav Chimodia from Annual Research. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir. So I have a question on methylamine. So, sir, as we have expanded our capacity in methylamines, have you also expanded the derivatives capacity like DMA, HCl, or are we selling more of the DMA in the market?
So we have also expanded DMA, HCl a little ahead of this last year itself. One more plant has come up.
Okay.
So it's in tandem.
Okay.
And we hope next year to put up another one.
Okay. So, how much is DMA being sold outside? So if you can give us a mix, like how much is consumed internally for our derivatives and how much?
No, I would say that very difficult. I would not put it, but across all aliphatic amines, I could say that we are very large. We are our own best customer.
Okay. And sir, on the ethyl amines, I think we have seen fairly good amount of price increases which have happened over 1.5 years. So I think, and that have now stabilized at a certain level of point. So if you can help us understand, like, is this because of the demand-led push which has happened to the increase in the realizations, particularly on triethyl amine side, or it is because of the raw material prices moving up and the realizations have moved up?
I think the alcohol prices have gone up substantially.
Okay.
It has to some extent driven us for increase in the price.
Okay. So, and sir, a related question would be like, we have also slowly, gradually expanded our ethyl amines capacity also. So, how do you see now Indian market for ethyl amines and our market share?
For us, we consume ethylamine internally also for some of the specialty products,
Okay.
So, and those are also growing.
Okay.
In fact, sometimes we have to allocate whether to give in the market or to use it ourselves.
Okay.
So now with the ease of availability, that situation will not be there.
Okay. Got it. And sir, last point would be on how do you see the demand for DMAPA from the personal care products? Because I think in last 1.5 years, probably personal care products have seen an uptick in the demand. So how do you see that product moving on?
That product is doing quite well, both locally as well as in the exports market. So we have done very reasonably well in DMAPA.
Okay. And are we planning any expansions there also, or we would stick with the current capacities?
We are currently not looking at immediate expansion, maybe after some time.
That is in a multi-purpose plan. So there the expansions take place not just because of DMAPA, but because of the other projects, other products also.
Okay.
So by putting up new reactors and columns and all there, it's not just for DMAPA, it's for other products too.
Okay. Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Meena Shah from Elara Capital. Please go ahead. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. So I wanted to understand the sectoral breakup, like pharmaceuticals, how much revenue-wise sectoral breakup, if you can provide me that.
Yeah, so it's about the life sciences, that is pharma and agro, and that is dominated by the pharma, is almost 70% of our sales. Okay. I would say 55% or 60% would be pharma. Of course, changes a bit here and there, but approximately 70% is these two segments, agrochemicals and pharma. Okay. And then the other segments are the automobile segment, which goes into foundry and rubber chemicals and things like that. Okay. And there's the dye stuff, there's the lab chemicals, there is water treatment. I already mentioned the dye stuff, and then there are miscellaneous other small uses.
Yeah. So, any kind of what kind of share is coming from rubber chemicals and dye stuff?
Sorry, from?
Rubber chemicals and dye stuff.
Chemicals, we make ethylamines, which goes for ZGDC, which is going into in the tube, in rubber tubes and all.
Okay. And sir, any idea of which particular segment gives you the highest satisfaction in terms of margin percentage?
That is difficult. We won't be able to give margin percentage of which sector giving more.
No, just the higher margin business. That's it. Not in number terms.
Then everybody will put up a plant like that.
No, it's not a sectoral difference. It's not as if we sell at a price to pharma and another price to agro. No.
The advantage is we have multi-purpose type of plant, so we are able to take that advantage.
Thank you. We would request the current participants to please come back in the questions for any follow-up questions. The next question is from the line of Rajiv Rupani, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yes, congratulations, sir, on a good set of numbers. Sir, I had a follow-up question on ACN. Now, sir, we are adding about 15,000 tons, and our competitor is doing some debottlenecking by which they are increasing to about 20 tons a day. So my question is, are the current prices of ACN sustainable? So what's your outlook on the same?
I think ACN is a product which has it is made internationally, of course, from acrylonitrile process. Most of it comes from that. While what we make in India, even our competitor also makes from acetic acid root, And this is what is differentiating the Indian producers versus, there are some in China also who make like this. So whenever there is an upswing in the acrylonitrile market, either the producers over there are not wanting to make more acrylonitrile or something, and that's why there is a demand-supply gap. Often the plants are shut down for various other reasons. The demand itself in acetonitrile is both in pharma as well as in agrochemicals. It's a very versatile solvent, and we do not see any reason why it will not do well.
So a follow-up question. From what I understand, the prices of acetonitrile used to spike up for a month and two, and we have enjoyed higher prices for more than a year. So do you think there is a possibility of some drop in the prices?
Well, the raw material costs have gone up tremendously. They've gone up to, the acetic acid price was in the range of say 40 rupees, gone up more than 100 rupees now. So there is a lot of difference. So a better technology company will definitely have the benefit of that.
No, I'm talking about the finished price of ACN.
That's what I'm saying. Finished price, even if it remains in the same range, if your cost of production is taken care by a better margin, better yields and other things, you are definitely going to get an advantage over others. It may last for some time because acetic acid prices may come down gradually. So we are not sort of in a situation where we have to think so much about it.
Okay, and a follow-up question on ACN. Your competitor has said that they have, if ACN prices come down, they can make a product called THF. Do we have the capabilities to make the same? Tetrahydrofuran?
No, we have not tried to. We don't want to do it.
Okay, and one last question. In last con call, you had talked about DMF. So do we have capabilities to produce DMF like your competitor?
We have some different process. Maybe some later stage we may go for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is the line of Mr. Viroz from a shareholder. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Mr. Viroz, your line is in talk mode. You can go ahead, please. As there is no response from the current participant, I have muted the line. The next question is from the line of Vinayak Mata from Augmenta Research. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, sir. Congratulations on a great set of numbers. I just had one question. Can you, while you're expanding capacities and going forward, you'll be expanding it further. In the long run, can you reiterate what kind of EBITDA or, net profit margins is sustainable in the business? given that it's been expanding over the last few years now, and for the current year, it's somewhere in the range of 33-34%. So just wanted to understand the sustainability, given there's always a pricing pressure from raw material and the finished goods part. Thank you.
Kirat, I think you can answer this. Yeah, this EBITDA margins have risen from in the region of about 24 to 26%, which used to be there in the older days. In fact, they've been as low as 18% earlier. But I would say 20, 25, in the region of about 25%, what used to be norm, has risen to over 30% now. How sustainable it is, there are a couple of points. I think the one factor which has changed structurally is that the volumes which we are producing now as compared to the overheads have shifted marginally. So we will not go back to the EBITDA margins of the old days, but whether this kind of margins will sustain is a very difficult question to answer. As I mentioned earlier in the call, the benign raw materials which we had over the last year or so have ceased because of the crude oil prices, and it depends on how much we can pass on our cost increases to the customer. So it could vary, and
understood.
There is a range, and whether this is the high end of the range or it's still some way to go, one cannot say.
Understood. Okay. Just to have a fair assumption, then it is, according to you, it's not going back to the previous range, but the sustainability in the current range is not sure of, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's it from my side.
The next question is from the line of Hitesh Vora from Mission Holdings. Please go ahead.
Sir, what is our capex plan and what are our plans to grow the volumes? I can understand the price fluctuation can a merit determiner, but what is our plan to grow the volumes?
If you look back, we have been actually growing in volumes about 10 to 15% every year over the last 10 years. And I do not see any reason that should slow down. Now, there may be a couple of years where we will grow only at 7, 8% because of some XYZ reason. But it will fall back into the next year you will have 15 and 18% and then back again. So looking at that, and that is based on the way our economy is growing. Ultimately, India is going to grow at 6 to 8% per annum. And when we move at that pace, the requirement of specialty chemicals and our kinds of products increases at about 1.5 times that. So we don't see any reason why our volume growth should slow down. Yes.
So are you putting up capex, sir? Are you putting up capex and?
Yeah. As I mentioned earlier in the call, we have the acetonitrile expansion, which is coming up in the middle of this year, and the aliphatic amines expansion coming up next year in the middle. So these are substantial expansions, and in acetonitrile, it is more than doubling the capacity which we exist today with us, and in the aliphatic amines, it's about 30% additional capacity of the total aliphatic amines plants we have.
But sir, our gross block was somewhere around 500 crore, and what I can see in CWIP is only 130 crore. So roughly capacity expansion is in the tune of 25%.
In terms of capex, yes. We'll be putting up another 200 crores this year, and maybe another 200 the year after.
Okay.
But all of them will lead to further top-line growth. So.
Understood. And you said, sir, why this margin picked up in the last quarter? What is the reason? As you said, it is not sustainable. But what are the reason margin why it picked up very rapidly?
I think if you somebody earlier mentioned that the margin for this quarter has been lower than the previous quarter. That is because of the raw material prices this quarter have been a little, this quarter by which I mean the January
it was 38% last quarter. This quarter it came 35%, but still it is about 30% is last 2-3 quarters. The margins are very, very high as compared to earlier years quarters. So what is the reason and how sustainable? What is the main reason for increasing this margin?
I think there are a range of products, which are some of them are specialty products, and those have been selling better than what they were doing earlier. So that has helped us,
Right. And do you see a competitive threat in those products? That's why you are guiding lower margin, or why you are worried?
We don't want to give a wrong impression that it will remain like that all the time. But it could be better than this also if those products do well,
Right, sir. Thank you very much. I'll come in the queue.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhishek Verma from Fidelity International. Please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Thanks for the opportunity. I just want to understand, do you serve any anchor customers, say, for example, who have been with you for, say, five years? I want to understand the proportion of repeat business in your portfolio.
We have customers who have been with us for 40 years now.
Oh, 40. Okay.
All our top 10 customers are over 10 years.
Okay. And what proportion would
there are some of them who have been buying from us since we began in the 80s,
Okay. That's great. And what proportion would that be, sir?
Of repeat customers?
Yeah.
99%.
You're saying, your entire portfolio is repeat portfolio.
Almost everybody who buys from us comes back to us. Unless his business has some change. That has also happened. Businesses have died down. The rubber chemicals business, for example, has changed dramatically over the last 40 years.
Okay.
Only one person remains standing is Nosul now. It used to be called earlier polyolefins. Yeah, India, then polyolefins, and now Nosul.
And sir, on the nature of contracts, so do they sign long-term contracts? Just want to understand that.
Not normally. Normally, it's not more than a quarter. It's a monthly kind of a deal, and some people want it quarterly. In the exports, we have a few customers who want an annual commitment fee.
Okay.
But then that gets tied to some formula for dollar, rupee, and raw material price.
Okay. That's okay. And sir, on the acetonitrile, so what is the key end use for this particular product?
Sorry, what is the main use?
What is the key industry that the acetonitrile products serve?
It's mainly pharma. Pharma is one industry which uses acetonitrile as a solvent. Then it's also used in lab chemicals. It's used in agrochemicals. Okay. And some specialities in electronics and stuff like that.
Thank you. We would request the current participant to please come back in the question queue for any follow-up questions. The next question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Sunidhi Securities. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on a good set of numbers for Q4 as well as the entire year. Sir, I just wanted to ask, what is our strategy behind expansion? So is it dominated by maybe import substitution or the domestic growth rate? And generally, when we are putting up a capacity, what is the duration that we look at in terms of optimally utilizing the capacity? Thank you.
Yogesh bhai?
Yeah, I think normally the idea is that we sort of manage to remain on top in all the products, and the utilization of capacities and all comes with that. I'm actually not, sorry, my mind was somewhere else. So can you just repeat the question?
So, you know what, I would look at it like this. You're asking for how do we plan our capex in terms of timelines. When do you
What's our thought behind it? I mean, is it predominantly by some import substitution of our products or the domestic growth that is very high? And generally, how much time does it take for our new capacity to get completely utilized?
Okay. New capacities normally take about 18 to 24 months to come up, and then maybe 2 to 3 years before they are completely utilized. The reasons are normally that we are interested in growth more in India, plus to some extent additional exports which we can take, because there are not too many dominant players in these amines except BASF and Eastman and of course some Chinese people. So we would like to be one of the leaders in the world in this. So that's what is our hope, and that's why we strategize to put up capacities based on that. I would like to add one more thing over here, that when we put up the plant, after 2-3 years when its capacity is utilized, we normally go in for a debottlenecking exercise, and we think of that right at the beginning to leave some margins for such an activity, because we know that over a period of time we will need more capacity of the product if it succeeds. So almost all our plants have had multiple debottlenecking exercises carried out.
Right. That's interesting to know. So, and this is primarily because the global players either are not expanding the capacity or probably going, reducing their capacity or going out of this particular space, which is benefiting us and players like us in India?
To some extent, probably yes, but also you must look at, that our whole Indian market is growing fast. Well, except for China, I think ours would be one of the faster growing markets in the world. So our own backyard is growing so fast that it doesn't matter what the international competition is doing. They would be also looking to supply here.
Right. And so just a clarification on how are we placed in terms of our EHS initiative? How many of our facilities are ZLD facilities, or what is the timeline that we are looking at from that perspective? Thank you.
Okay. So Kurkum is about 50% recycling, and it will go to ZLD in another year and a half. Patalganga will be ZLD in maybe 3 months from now. It's a process. In fact, it got a bit delayed because of this COVID situation, but by June we were expecting it to be ZLD. Dahej is going to be 50% as soon as the acetonitrile plant is commissioned, and going to 100% maybe a year and a half after that. So in another 2-3 years, we'll be having the capacity to do ZLD. Whether we will run the plants for ZLD is a separate discussion, because depending on the CTP and how it operates, because being ZLD also adds to your cost. So it's more like an insurance.
Correct.
We have the ability to do it. Whether we would like to operate the plant on ZLD is a question which will be on numerous issues, the availability of water, the efficiency of the CTB, and such like.
But the new expansions that we are doing, we already have, thought of the ZLD initiative, and those are planned in similar fashion, right?
Yeah, it's planned in all new facilities will have planned as ZLD kind of.
Thank you so much, sir, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Paras Edenwala from Capital Portfolio. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a few questions. One, I couldn't get the number as far as FY21 is concerned in terms of breakup between volumes and realization. That was number one. Number two, if you could give us a feel about the volatility in the realizations of your products from your past experience. And number three, I just had a question on management bandwidth. Mr. Kothari has been driving the company so successfully for all these years. Is there someone from the family who's also involved, or if not, what is the management bandwidth in terms of looking at the long term for the company?
I think Mr. Sunit Kothari, who is my son, he is also the second executive director, and he and Kirat Patel, they both are really leading the team just now. But we are also making preparation for the next line after that, and that will be put through. Part of it will be put through this year, and will be going on adding more senior people at that line.
Okay.
This process of people retiring and new people coming in has started about 4 years ago in earnest, and hopefully over the next couple of years you will see. Of course, Sunit has been with us for 25 years now, so I don't call him a new person, but much younger than us. Yes.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
We do have people who have on a younger team, but have been with us for some time.
All right. Okay. If you could respond to the first two questions, please.
Sorry, what are the other two? Just can you repeat the first one?
Yeah, I missed out on the FY21 breakup between volumes and realizations. And
okay. The growth on the top line has been about 26% or so. Mm-hmm. About 2/3 of it would have been value and 1/3 of it would have been volume.
Okay.
Approximately.
Yeah, and the final one was on the volatility of realizations from your past experience. I think, as you rightly put it, 2 years back you were at about 18%. The next year you shot up to 25%, and this year you are at about 32-33%. So, which is remarkable. Which is a mix of both volumes and realizations. So, I just wanted to understand the volatility in realizations, which can really impact your margins.
The volatility in price realization as product to product changes. Sometimes they are very stable for a long time and then suddenly jump up. The part of the reason there is some supply-demand mismatch, and part of it is a push from the raw material side.
Mm-hmm.
Except for acetonitrile, which has two separate routes for making the product, our aliphatic amines and others are more or less everybody in the world follows the same route. So if it affects me in the raw material price, it affects my competitor. So giving a phase lag of a quarter here and there, the prices move based on raw material price increases. After beyond that, it's a question of demand supply shortage, and then sometimes prices hike, spike a little.
Okay. No, what I really wanted to understand was the swing in the margins that is possible. Like in commodity companies, you could see 35% operating margin, then in the next year it could drop to about 26, 27. Are the realizations as volatile in your business, as we've seen in some of the commodity companies?
Slightly less, I would say. Yeah. Slightly less, because
volatility will be less for us.
Slightly, some specialty products also help us, to sort of cover that volatility.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you so much, and all the best, please.
We are well over our time, so I think what is last question?
Thank you. The next person is from the line of Nikhil Jain from Galaxy International. Please go on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir, for taking this question. I just wanted to ask one thing, right? Currently, it's a very blue sky scenario in which we are operating. Things are going very, very well. And I think whatever we are able to see, I think we are anticipating good visibility going forward also. I just wanted to know, is there anything on the competitive activity, given that the space is looking so interesting and growing so well? So are you seeing some additional competition coming in from China? India, we know already there are only one or two more players, but anything outside of that, so outside of India which can impact our thing? And second thing is on the export side, you have been looking at exports, but still domestic is the main part of our business. So what is your sense on how much exports can actually contribute going forward and on this? Yeah. Those are the two questions. Thank you.
Yogesh, you want to mention about competition? First question is on, can you just repeat the first question? About the competition, what do we expect from?
Yeah. So anything new that we are seeing or observing on the competition, because we know generally for many of these chemicals, the Chinese are actually the biggest force, right? So, however, in this case, we are not finding them to be so active. So either the space is small or there is some other constraint which is there, which is not allowing them to come and play big time. So anything that you are observing? Yeah.
China already has several plants, and the thing is their own requirements in China has increased also in the last maybe 1 or 2 years. So that has to some extent helped us. Plus, the size of our projects are not that large for any real larger companies to come and invest over here, or invest in their own countries also. So that way we are in a niche-sized area, which is comfortable for us and our local, competitors.
Okay. Thank you for that. And second question was about the export push, right? So do you think that we would primarily be a domestic company, or do you anticipate over the next 2 to 3 years our contribution coming in from exports will change quite significantly? Thank you.
I think exports will always be, we will always have to look out for more exports. But there are two giants. One is in, both are in USA, and of course Germany, PS, and of course the Chinese. So it is not so easy just to export over there. Only if any of these companies decide not to pursue further manufacturing of these products, then possibly we will have a larger share of the market. So this is the way things are happening.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you. That was the last question. I would now like to hand the conference over to the management for closing comments.
Hello. Yogesh bhai? Yeah. So, thank you very much, HDFC. Thank you very much for all the investors who have wanted to listen to us. And thank you to my colleagues, Mr. Kirat Patel, Mr. Alkyl Amines, Mr. Chintamani, Mr. Shinde. Hopefully, when we meet next, we will have better results in this. And by that time, hopefully, COVID also will be over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, and please stay safe.
Thank you.